Hey everybody, how you doing today? I recently got a comment on one of my videos. The video was testing out the Spartan Blade Enyo. Someone commented, and I'll just say his name right now. It's chiwiitube. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'll just show you. But he asked and commented on the Spartan Blade Enyo that his didn't come as razor sharp as mine did, and that he said he'll be sending it back. Also, he wanted me to do a video on how I put my knife edge on. So how I do that is with this system here, and from this point on I'll be talking to chiwiitube directly. I hope that's how you pronounce your name, man. If not, I'm sorry. Correct me in the comments below. But this is the system here. It's the Lansky Deluxe Diamond Sharpening System. It has diamond hones, which means it's a metal base impregnated with synthetic diamond bits. It takes some time out of sharpening with regular stones. This set also does come in regular stones. I have an older set here. You can see the difference in the stones themselves. The only difference between this set here and this set here is this takes a little less time. This will take a little bit longer, but the results would be the same. This set cost me about $70 with tax, but you could get the standard stones in sets anywhere from $25 and up. So it's a really good set to start learning to sharpen your own knives. It's what I started to learn to sharpen my own knives with a certain system. I used to sharpen knives solely by hand on a flat stone. I still do that from time to time, but I found this to be more accurate. So basically just getting into it. This is the clamp, and I did buy the optional base for it. Bring that into the shot. This is just a plastic base. I nailed it to this just little piece of press board or plywood. And the clamp, all I did to do was modify that, was put a piece of electrical tape on either side just to give it a little more grip, just so it doesn't slip around as much. The knife I'll be using to demonstrate this today is the Leatherman Crater. I don't really have any dull knives in my collection right now, and this one has an adequate edge already, but just show you that. But just for this demonstration purposes, I will dull it out a little bit. If I could find that other stone, here it is. So just gonna give it a couple quick passes over that. Yeah, it's not really cutting anything now. There's a lot of resistance to that. But just giving you a close-up of this. You can see this still has the factory edge on it. Come on, camera, focus. This still has the factory edge on it. You can see the vertical lines here on the blade grind. Or the horizontal lines, sorry. So just getting up into the setting up of this, you'd take your clamp basically, and this system really only works for knives that have a flat portion on the spine. It doesn't work for FFG blades, full flat ground. Just setting this up, you want it pretty much as level or as even a space in between here. And then all you do is put your blade in, tighten down the one screw. I'll have to get something, I'm not prepared for this. So all you do is take your one screw at the front, tighten that down, It's hard doing this through the viewfinder sometimes. You tighten that down, and then you do your final tightening with this back bolt. Make sure it's secure. And then the one thing I really like to do with this system is only use one rod when I'm sharpening or reprofiling. This would be profiling because I'll be changing the actual angle of the leading edge here. So I'll be starting out with the extra coarse. I usually start out with that one. So just sliding that in and tightening that screw. Finding the angle on this to use, or which angle would be best, takes a little bit of trial and error. I'll just start from the bottom notch and work up. You see there's 4 notches here. Each one corresponds with a certain angle. The angles are on the back. So it'd be 17 degrees, 20 degrees, 25 degrees, and 30. I usually go with 20, but sometimes I go with 25 depending on how much I'd actually have to remove. But just start at the 20 mark and put the stone on. I'll see if I can show you how I actually do this. I see there that it'll actually be pretty close. So I'll use the 20 degree mark. And what I do is basically when I'm starting off with the extra coarse stone is I'll go back and forth like that, but I'll usually mark the blade with some sort of black marker. Doesn't matter if it's permanent or not. You could use alcohol or just soap and water to get it off afterwards. Marking the blade like this lets you know where your stone is actually removing material from. So if you need to make any corrections, it's easy to see that. So just showing you the before with that black marker on it. And then I'll do a couple passes and then show you what it actually does. I'm not applying a lot of pressure right now. I'm basically putting enough pressure just to stabilize the stone so it doesn't roll like this. You never want to push too hard with this sort of system. Basically you'll get scratches in your edge that you'll never get out. It does affect the cutting performance if you get deep scratches into your leading edge, but mostly it's a visual or a look thing. So I'll just show you what that few bits of passes did on this. So you can see there where there's markers still left on the blade. You see the stone is actually reaching the very edge here, but then as you travel up towards the tip, the angle's off and it's sort of wandering. That's why it's still black on the very edge. So when I'm sharpening, if I see something like this, I would tend to leave all the way up to here alone, because that's pretty much at a 20-degree angle already, but this is the portion that's off. So I'd concentrate more on this area here and then blend the rest of the edge in. So I'll show you how I do that. So I'd start right around where that little bit of a deviation starts, and I'd give that little portion of blade more attention than the rest. You don't want to solely stay in this position and just do this over and over and over, because right around this point or wherever you stop, you'll start to build up a little bit of a wobble in the edge, or an actual shelf, like almost a ricasso halfway through your blade. But you'd give it basically about 5 strokes for every one of the entire edge. That way you'll have a consistent angle. But it's really not as complicated as all that. Basically, if you do this until you get the entire edge silver instead of that black marker, you'd be in good shape. Your knife would be razor sharp. So just continuing with this. I don't think this will take too long because it is a little bit of softer steel, and the blade edge is already pretty close to 20 degrees. Also, another way to tell when it's time to flip the knife over and start concentrating on the other side is if you take your thumbnail or fingernail, you'll feel a burr on the underside. It has a bit of one back here, but none from there on. Sometimes this is a time-consuming process, depending on how much the blade, how much work the blade needs. Usually, it takes me about, I don't know, 15 minutes to a half hour to reprofile most of my knives, depending on the size. I recently reprofiled my K-Bar BK17. This now has a 20-degree edge on each side. This one took a little longer because it is a longer blade, a bigger blade, and the steel's a little bit tougher, so it takes a little bit longer. But I've sharpened pretty much every steel from 440, 440C, every 8CR variation, AUS 8, S30V, S35VN, 154CM. This system will do it all. It does take a little bit getting used to, but that's pretty much with anything. There's other systems, clamp systems like this on the market. Some are better, some are not as good. Edge Pro Apex, I think one of them's called. There's a, I think a Cutco version of this. A little bit less expensive. I haven't had any experience with that myself. I've been really happy with this system, so I pretty much stuck with it for about 8, going on 10 maybe years now. I got my first system like this from actually Canadian Tire, and then once that system sort of wore out with use, I replaced it with this one about 6 months ago. I'm looking to upgrade some of the stones, just basically get more, just so I don't have to rely on these diamond stones to do all my work. If I could get a set like the blue one I just had right here, that would do most of my sharpening needs. And then when I need to reprofile, which is the harder work for this system, I'd use the diamond stones. So this side is almost finished. There's just a little portion left at the tip that's black. You see that there. I was really surprised to hear that when you got your knife, your Spartan blade, that it wasn't razor sharp. What I would actually do is either contact the company you bought it from, if that wasn't Spartan Blades directly, or actually contact Spartan Blades and see what they'll do for you. They're a really awesome company for customer service, and that's the stuff they sort of want to hear, so they could sort of correct that sort of stuff. I've been looking at another sharpening system too. Looking at the Spyderco Sharp Maker just to do my minor sharpening. It'd be nice to just set that thing up and give it a couple strokes on those straight rods just to bring back my edge instead of going through this process all the time. If you do just sharpen your knives with this system and don't use it as a reprofiling system, you'll tend to take more metal off than you need to. But besides that point, if you're, I don't want to say careful because I'm not really being careful right now, in that I'm not sort of being very diligent of my strokes or counting strokes per side. It doesn't really need to get that complicated with this system. Using that marker trick really takes all the guesswork out of it. So just seeing where I am right now, just take all these little metal filings off. Get my marker, color in that edge again. And it's a process, a repeating process like this until you get your final results. Basically you want to stick with the one stone until you get the edge flat all the way across. So, just showing you what I got so far. You can see most of the markers gone on the very leading edge. Right at the tip though, there's still a spot where my stone isn't reaching the very edge of the blade, so that portion wouldn't be sharp. So I'll still have to do a little bit of work on that before I flip this blade over and do the other side. So I'll do the rest of that off camera and I'll be back right after that. Alright, so that only took about, I don't know, 3 to 5 more minutes to get that out, that last bit of black or inconsistency out of the blade. Just trying to show you a better close-up. So now I could feel a burr on the back of this blade, and there's no more black on this very leading edge. So when you achieve that, it would be time to flip it over and do the exact same process on the other side. So marking it, oops, sorry for bumping the camera. So marking it with your black marker. Making sure you use the same angle mark. This side I could already tell is going to need a little bit more work, but it'll also show what I'm talking about with getting this edge perfect. So this is going to be a good demonstration. Just get some of this marker off and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this is what happens when I usually reprofile my knives. So you could see that most of the edge is going to need to be filed down, sharpened, because all this black is going to have to be brought down. My sharpening stone is only touching the very top where my fingernail is. You can see it more pronounced as you get to the tip. This very top shiny line right above my finger. is where the actual stone is cutting into the metal, and then all this material here is going to have to be removed. So this will take about, I don't know, 15 minutes, 10 minutes of work. I might go off camera to do this just to not make this video so long. But we'll see. I've been surprised before. Sometimes these, I don't want to say softer steels, but any steel around a 58 and under for Rockwell hardness tends to sharpen up really quick with these diamond stones. So, like the other side, I'm going to have to concentrate more on the tip than the flat portion here, because usually that's the way with knives. I don't know why. When they come from the factory, this portion and this portion, the flat portions of the knife, will usually be pretty much bang on for their angle edge, and then it'll start to wander once you get to the tip. I think the only company that, and I'm being serious right now, the only company that has a decent consistent edge angle would be Buck Knives. I would almost guarantee they use some sort of clamp system to sharpen their knives, because they don't have that inconsistency from the bottom here to the tip. I would highly recommend getting this system if you don't have experience sharpening your knives, or if you want to get an actual system that'll reprofile your edges, for the sole fact that a lot of times I buy knives and well, pretty much every time I buy a knife nowadays I reprofile my edge. Just make sure it's its sharpest and at its most efficient using state, if you want to put it that way, at all times. Plus, if you end up damaging one of your knives, it's assuring that you could actually fix the damage yourself. It's why I started looking and actually bought this system here, is I didn't want to go to a place to sharpen my knives, and I didn't want to constantly screw up my edge angles by hand sharpening. Since then I have gotten better at hand sharpening, but this is still a lot more foolproof and a lot more easy to use. You don't have to sort of pay too much attention. The only attention you gotta pay really is not to slip and cut yourself on this, because you are working around a progressively sharper edge. So, just show you again, wipe all this metal dust off. You can see all this portion is pretty much good to go. And then right when you get to the tip, you'll start seeing that black near the very, very cutting edge. That means that that portion needs a little bit more work still. So I'll just do the rest of this on camera because it's not actually taking as long as I'd thought. And I'm not paying too much attention at sort of my consistent strokes with this stone right now. I usually do that with the medium or even the heavy grit. And you can sort of see that blending technique I talked about earlier, where I'm sort of focusing on just this tip area, but then every now and then you'll see me go back to the base of the knife and throw a few strokes down there just to make sure I get a consistent angle. like I said before too, the system's really good, but it only does work with knives that have some sort of flat portion on the spine. It won't work with convex edges, full convex edges, or full flat ground blades. Depending too, if I found if your blade has a traction coating and it's a full flat ground, you could sort of use this system, but it tends to slip off still. Just getting close to finishing this side, and then I'll switch to the coarse stone. The best tip I'd say for using this system also would be the way I'm holding it now. I keep this rod flat on the bottom of this notch by sort of resting my thumb on the back here so it doesn't do this. That just changes the angle ever so slightly that it'll throw off your edge angle and you won't get a razor sharp edge. Putting your thumb right here, not applying pressure so it raises the stone like this, but just enough so it stays flat against that very bottom edge. If you're looking to get this system, and actually do get this system or a system like it, good advice also would be to maybe get like a $7 knife, and I'm being serious, get like a cheap knife and practice on that before trying it the first time on one of your better knives. First time I got this system, I put one of my buck knives, folding knife, it was I think an Alpha Hunter folder, and I pretty much screwed up the edge of it. A couple years later, after knowing how to use this system, I went back and actually fixed it, but it helps to get a little bit of practice in on maybe something that you're not so worried to screw up, because it does take a little bit of trial and error. But the good thing with knives is once you do figure out how you can use this and how it works for you, any screw up you cause on a knife you could actually fix, so that's a good thing. One of the knives that I just sort of dinged up is my Buck 119. I was doing some batoning with that, and baton through the log no problem, but then into the ground and into a log, or into a rock, sorry, and snapped a bit of the tip off and rolled the edge pretty good. With this system I fixed it up in about 20 minutes, half an hour. I did do a recording of that. I don't know if I'll post it or not. It's kind of a long video, but this one's sort of turning into one too. So this side's done. From my eyes, it's done. I could feel that burr on the back side, and there's no more black on the very edge. There's metal filings, but there's no black. So at this point, I would no longer use this stone. I'd put on the coarse stone and do the exact same process. So flipping the knife back over to the first side you started with, finding that 20-degree mark, and basically doing the exact same thing. You can mark it, I always like to, but it's not necessary at this point. But it still lets me know when I get my actual bevel right. And basically you do this process through this stone and these last two stones. The longest process of sharpening or reprofiling your knife like this is that first step of actually achieving that angle. Once you achieve that angle using the extra coarse stone here, the rest of the process doesn't take too long. It's basically just removing the scratches you caused with that extra coarse stone and further refining that angle. That's what you got to be careful of right there. See how I slipped off the edge there? I have cut myself using this system, and when I've done, it's been a pretty bad cut because it's usually going forward like that. And sometimes I've been in a hurry and actually put a leather glove on this hand to do this, but I don't suggest doing this in a hurry. I'm sort of trying to pick up the pace here because I'm looking at the time on the video and it's getting up there. But I hope you're still with me. So this side's almost done. Just give it a couple more passes. Look up this off camera for a second, guy. Alright, so that side's done. And then you'd flip it over and do the exact same on the other side. Mark it with your marker. The other thing too I think I should mention is keep an eye on your rods if you have this system and make sure they're straight. Every now and then they'll get a little tweaked one way or another. Find your 20-degree mark. And this would be the same process for pretty much every knife. Fixed blade, folder, doesn't really matter. There are limitations to this system for blade length, but you could still get a pretty big blade. I'll show you. It'd probably be a 9 to 10 inch blade that you'd be limited to, but that's a fairly large knife right there. So. There are different sort of versions of this by different companies, varying prices. But I actually do like this company. They're pretty quality. Their stones do hold up well. Seems to be a little bit of a low spot right here. So I'll be concentrating a little bit more on that. And there it goes. So I just seen that little bit of black that was left right here disappear. So this side's almost done also. Ooh. Almost got me. Alright, so that side's good. So now I'll move to the medium stone. And for me, this will always be a sort of EDC, something to also grab quick and throw in my pocket if I need to. Something I'll grab to break down cardboard, something that I won't really worry about. So I'm keeping this one at medium coarseness for the edge angle. It makes cardboard cutting really awesome. It has that toothier edge to it. So this will be the last stone I'll be using. Just forgot to flip it back over. You always want to start again with the side that has the burr on it and remove that burr. You just color the edge again. So since this is the last stone I'll be using, I want to pay the most attention to this one. In my opinion, the first stone you use and the last stone you use are the two important ones. The first one sets the angle, and the last one would sort of do the final adjustments to it. So after I get this edge sort of consistent to where all the black's removed again, out of all those low spots or low scratches, I'll give it a few passes just going in one direction. So this is pretty much there. So this would be the point where I do just strokes going towards the blade. So just like this. And then picking up the stone. That way, literally on like a microscopic level, you'd be aligning the molecules of the steel and actually creating a scratch pattern that's uniform, and that helps in cutting ability. There's a really awesome channel if you want to learn more about sharpening, Virtual Vice. He does a lot of hand sharpening. The guy is absolutely meticulous with his sharpening skills. Awesome channel. So that side's done. I'll flip it over one last time and do this side. I was surprised at how much work this knife actually needed. I chose this knife because I figured it'd be a quick one. It looked like the edge angle was pretty much bang on, but as you've seen, it sort of wandered towards the tip here on both sides. So I'd call this a moderate amount of reprofiling. A long reprofiling would usually take about 2 to 3 hours. A short one about 3 to 5 minutes. And so anywhere in between there you could have a razor sharp knife. So I'd say anywhere from 5 minutes to 3 hours with any sort of edge, whether it be just a dull factory edge or a chipped out one, you could have your knife fully restored. That's what I absolutely like and love about this system. It does so much in what I consider a short amount of time. So I'm just going to do the one direction strokes now because it's at that point. Feels nice. And then one last time, just flipping it over, and with very little pressure to no pressure at all, just give it a couple more strokes on both sides. And all this is doing now is basically removing that very small burr and evening out both sides. So you'd want to do pretty much 2 or 3 strokes per side, then rotate it, 2 and 3 strokes per side, rotate it, just to minimize that burr. Keeping in mind that I am not applying any pressure on the back of this hone. I think one more on this side and we'll be good to go. Feels good. I don't feel any burr on either side. So I'll just take this out of its clamp. Just put this stuff away quick for you. And give you a little bit of a look on that. Keep in mind there's going to be some marker left on the very edge of this here. Let me just clean that off right quick. I do use isopropyl rubbing alcohol to clean my knives. If you do use like WD-40 or any sort of oil like that, this will kill any of the grime that gets accumulated on your blades. And it also takes marker off really well. So there, just close this up. Give you a look at this. So if you could remember from the starting of the video, you could see very, very coarse lines on this edge. You could see how they're all smoothed out, a more shiny, more consistent edge. And let me grab that piece of paper at the start. You could see that, if my camera will focus, you could see that it's sort of jagged and has a lot of burrs to the edge of the paper. But right now, it slices like butter. And if the paper test doesn't work for you, see if it'll shave some hair. And it does. That's why I really like this system. I'm really glad you commented. So thanks again, chiwiitube, for commenting. It gave me an opportunity to make this video. Anybody watching this, if you ever have any requests for a video, just let me know. More than happy to do it for you. So I hope this helped. If it didn't help, contact me. I'll try again. And take care, guy. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching, everyone. And stay tuned for more. Thanks, guys.